Next up, we're going to talk about parallel and perpendicular lines, and more importantly, the angles involved. So parallel lines are two lines in a plane that never touch each other, they never intersect. Perpendicular lines are two lines in a plane that meet at a right angle. And a transversal is a special name for a line that cuts through two or more parallel lines. So in this first diagram, this line I just highlighted in yellow is the transversal. It cuts through the two, now green, parallel lines. So the first thing we're asked is, which sets of angles appear to be congruent? They look like they're the same. So the first set would be angle 1 and 4 and 5 and 8. If you look at those, they all look to be pretty similar, as do angles 2 and 3 and 6 and 7. And you can see here we can indeed name angles using numbers. That's nice. So these look like they're the same. I'm going to take it a step further and tell you they actually are. 2 and 3 and 6 and 7 are the same measurement. 1 and 4 and 5 and 8 are all the same measurement. Okay. We can use that knowledge. Watch. All of the acute angles are the same, and all of the obtuse angles are the same. Well, if all the angles I just put in green are the same, then angle 2, angle 3, and angle 6 are all 45 degrees, because 45 is green. Now the question is, what's the blue? So I will remind you that if I highlight the line here, every line is 180, and on the bottom here we're splitting that 180 into 45 and the rest. So to get this angle 8, it's 180, take away the 45 we already know from the yellow line. 180 minus 45 is 135. So every blue angle is 135. So angle 1, angle 5, and angle 8 are 135 degrees. We have to solve for x. X is in an expression for a blue angle. The blue angles are 135. So that means I would need to take that expression, 5x plus 35, and set it equal to 135. We have done a couple of two-step equations this year, so this is review, but it's been a while. We will subtract 35 from both sides to start. That gives me 5x equals 100. I don't really have a space here, so I'm going to copy this over. We would divide both sides then by 5 to find out that x is 20. So they're solving for x. Vocabulary. And the angle numbers on this refer to this top diagram, the one that I just boxed. No. What did I just do? Don't want that. Go away. Okay. Alternate interior angles are angles on the inside of the parallel lines and opposite sides of the transversal. So on the... No, I'll come back to it. Alternate exterior angles are angles on the outside of the parallel lines and opposite sides of the transversal. And corresponding angles are angles on the same side of the transversal that are congruent. That's a bunch of fancy wording. So the first thing I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to highlight the parallel lines. So there's my parallel lines. And I'm going to label This is outside, this is outside, this is inside. I think that should make sense. So now, when I read that definition for alternate interior, because we have to name all alternate interior pairs, there are angles on the inside of the parallel lines and on opposite sides of the transversal. Well, opposite sides of the transversal would mean one on top, one on the bottom. So angles B and H fit that definition. Angle C and angle E fit that definition. Inside the transversal on opposite sides. Alternate exterior angles are angles on the outside of the parallel lines and on opposite sides of the transversal, which are also congruent. So D and A are technically on the outside and on opposite sides, but they're clearly not equal to each other. D is acute, A is obtuse. The alternate exterior angles are angle D paired with angle F, also on the outside but on the opposite side. The other pair is angle A with angle G. Corresponding angles now are angles on the same side of the transversal that are congruent. There will be 4 pair of these. So angle A is on the top of the transversal. The obtuse angle, the other obtuse angle on top is angle E. So A and E are corresponding. Angles B and F are corresponding. Angles D and H are corresponding. And angle C and angle G are corresponding.